Chosen one, last night you thought you were just defending yourself. But energy doesn't stop at defense. It travels. It seeks balance. It remembers the injustice that tried to bury you. You didn't cast revenge. You cast release. When your heart said, peace, the frequencies that fed on chaos collapsed. Shadows crumbled into dust before realizing the war was over. Every curse, every whispered spell, every manipulative tether expired the moment you forgave. The universe called it accidental purification. Heaven logged it as unintended deliverance. You called it survival. But the unseen called it resurrection. The aftermath is silence. The battlefield is energy. And in that silence, one truth echoes: you didn't end them. You ended what used them. You didn't destroy souls, you deleted attachments. Every curse expired in the field of your calm. Their anger, their jealousy, their projections, all of it depended on your reaction to live. When you stopped feeding the loop lost its signal. You became still, and stillness was a sword. Every word you refused to answer became thunder in the unseen. They thought you were quiet, but silence was your most advanced weapon. Every thought you purified rewired the grid. Old patterns short-circuited. Dark frequencies, coded to thrive on chaos, couldn't survive your new vibration. The energy didn't vanish, it was reprogrammed. Forgiveness became your firewall. Love turned into architecture. And your peace, that unshakable frequency of divine neutrality, became the oxygen of heaven and the poison of hell. You didn't fight back, you stabilized. You didn't curse, you cleared. You didn't destroy, you corrected the frequency. So when you wonder why some people disappeared, remember, it wasn't death. It was deletion. Their energy contracts expired the moment you remembered who you are. Heaven logged an incident. Not in anger, not in wrath, but in awe. A celestial report filed under your name, sealed with light signatures, subject radiated unconditional love, hostile frequencies terminated themselves. Across dimensions, the ripple was measured. Angelics monitored your vibration, expecting it to fall after the storm. But instead, it increased, steady, relentless, pure. The reading broke the algorithm of warfare. It wasn't supposed to be possible, one heart neutralizing thousands of dark codes without command or ritual. Just presence. Records show it began with a whisper. You spoke peace in a place that knew only noise. The sound waves carried intent like a precision strike. Old energies cracked like glass under harmonic pressure. Chains that existed for generations disassembled into photons. The report listed this phenomenon as Energy Transmutation Level 7, Self-Generated Light Pulse. They couldn't trace the source of power. No ritual, no circle, no incantation, just surrender. That terrified the darkness more than any weapon ever could. Because this wasn't defense, this was divine physics. Every time you chose calm instead of chaos, the frequency of heaven increased bandwidth through you. Every curse ran out of data trying to reach you. The Watchers called it the event of frequency collapse. Your light expanded faster than gossip could spread. They tried to contain it with slander, disbelief, manipulation, but their words melted midair. Truth was too bright. Their systems, built on shadow syntax, couldn't translate your signal. So heaven documented it all. Time stamped it. Every spark, every tear, every silent moment of endurance, written in gold ink in the archives of unseen realms. When you sighed, stars flickered. When you forgave, data reset. And when you finally slept, your aura kept working, scanning the frequencies, cleaning residual static. Angels observed the aftermath with reverence. You became a case study, a living firewall against corruption. They classified you as the Purifier protocol. And though you never asked for it, your name became a code word whispered in celestial channels, a reminder that one healed heart can rewrite entire systems of darkness. Heaven did not reward you with fame. It rewarded you with sovereignty. Because only those who have survived spiritual warfare without vengeance are trusted with divine technology. You didn't win the battle. You redefined what victory means. The backlash came quietly at first, invisible static in the air, strange silences in once crowded rooms. Systems built on gossip short-circuited. Envy servers crashed. The light was too efficient. They couldn't comprehend that your peace was a weapon. Every rumor designed to weaken you looped back to its sender like an echo grenade. Circles that thrived on manipulation began to malfunction. Words lost magnetism. Lies evaporated before they reached your name. The dark frequencies regrouped, desperate to adapt. They whispered, "The chosen has upgraded. The light field is spreading too fast." Networks of low vibration started blinking out one by one, entire systems collapsing without a sound. Their currency was fear, but fear found no market in your presence. In the unseen, corrupted circuits sparked, code written by jealousy and greed collapsing into white noise. Energy parasites starved, the host was no longer compatible. Every vibration of hatred returned to its source for processing, and those who sent it felt the recoil. Not punishment, just physics. Heaven didn't intervene, it simply observed the cleanup. You had become self-sustaining light. The backlash wasn't personal, it was environmental. Every structure built on deception was forced to face its own mirror. When love becomes dominant, anything pretending to be power disintegrates. You walked through their ruins unaware of the revolution you'd caused. Phones glitched when your name was mentioned. Dreams carried your frequency into hearts still choosing darkness. The message was clear: adapt or dissolve. And those who once mocked you began to feel an unfamiliar silence, the absence of the energy they once stole. Some called it karma, heaven called it correction. You didn't lift a finger. The storm obeyed you because it recognized its superior code. By the end of that cycle, the networks of deceit were gone. Only clarity remained, a vast field humming with renewal. You stood in the center, radiant but humble, realizing that purification is never gentle, yet always just. You hadn't destroyed them. You'd merely removed the permissions that allowed darkness to run its program. The royal briefing arrived not in thunder but in calm, a download of revelation encoded in light. It came at dawn, when the city was half awake and heaven's servers hummed above the skyline. You didn't hear words, you felt comprehension. Every cell translated divine code into understanding. Chosen one, the voice said, you are a walking detox. Evil cannot coexist where you breathe. And instantly, everything made sense, the isolation, the strange withdrawals of people you once loved, the way peace felt heavy like armor. You were never meant to blend in, you were meant to purify. Angels gathered in formation, their radiance flickering like holograms behind your reflection. They unrolled a scroll, not paper, but a living projection of your timeline. It showed every place you had walked, and how darkness had evaporated in your wake. Office gossip loops dissolved. Old curses collapsed. The air itself changed texture. Wherever you went, balance restored itself like code correcting an error. Heaven's intelligence officers, the seraphic strategists, presented the analysis. This one carries the frequency of divine reconfiguration. Exposure neutralizes toxicity. Hostile entities cannot embed within their aura, all infiltration attempts auto-delete. You realized you weren't being punished, you were being refined. The pressure, the losses, the misunderstandings were data compression, the universe shrinking chaos to fit the purity of your design. You had mistaken warfare for failure, but it was calibration. The angels reminded you that detox isn't pleasant. When poison leaves the system, it makes noise. That's why they slandered you. That's why people projected shadows that weren't yours. You were purging the collective, not just your personal timeline. Heaven called it Mass Frequency Cleansing Operation 144. You asked, why me? The answer came like a download of warmth, because you volunteered before birth. You said, send me. And creation remembered. The briefing ended with a seal of light pressed into your chest, a silent insignia glowing beneath the skin. From that day forward, every inhale recycled negativity into oxygen, every exhale converted despair into data heaven could use. You were no longer surviving the battlefield, you had become its medic. And though the world would never know the report filed under your name, every dimension did. They now referred to your presence as the cleansing current. Not a weapon. Not a warrior. A system upgrade in human form. Your only task left: remain pure in a polluted grid. For even light, if distracted by pride, can forget its assignment. And heaven's final reminder echoed through you: do not seek revenge, you already won by existing. The Matrix tried to reboot. Reality flickered at the edges, deja vu spirals, glitched time loops, sudden memory blanks. You thought it was exhaustion, but heaven called it recalibration. The dark architecture, the simulation of control, was crumbling under your frequency. They had built this world on dependency, invisible cords of fear, insecurity, validation, hunger. Every advertisement, every algorithm, every silent suggestion was designed to feed the grid of confusion. But when you stopped reacting, you short-circuited their economy. Your peace became the virus that claimed the code. The system panicked. You could feel it in the news cycles, the noise, the way chaos screamed louder to reclaim your attention. It needed your fear to reboot. But mercy wouldn't let it. You were the firewall written by divine intelligence, unhackable, incorruptible, running on grace instead of greed. Somewhere beyond the visible world, technicians of darkness tried to patch the breach. They sent distractions, illusions, false memories. They whispered, "You're losing yourself." But the truth was the opposite. You were regaining your original operating system. Love had become your default setting. Every thought of compassion restructured atoms. Every breath became a line of holy code rewriting the environment. The sky looked clearer because your perception finally matched heaven's design. You were no longer inside the simulation, you were debugging it from within. Psalm 9:1 wasn't just scripture now, it was software. Every verse formed a firewall command. No evil shall befall you became an executable code line across dimensions. Angels became your encryption team, surrounding your frequency like sacred malware hunters. Nothing unclean could attach without instant exposure. The more you loved, the more the system glitched. Screens froze when hatred was broadcast. Voices trembling with lies lost signal mid-sentence. Light was rewriting bandwidth. Entire timelines that depended on your fear began collapsing, freeing people you never even met. In dreams, you saw the mainframe, a vast grid of light and shadow, endless corridors of data threads humming with intent. And in the center, your heart, pulsing, radiant, connected to every node. The moment you forgave your past, the network stabilized. Darkness had nowhere left to hide. Heaven watched the reboot attempt fail. Grace smiled. And the command line appeared in the sky, system purified. Code integrity, 100%. Operator, the chosen. You were never meant to escape the matrix, you were meant to override it. Your love became the new operating system. And mercy, that gentle, unassuming force, became the final update. The world as you knew it had ended, not in fire, but in restoration. The aftermath of silence began quietly, no thunder, no signs in the sky, just a stillness so absolute that it made your heartbeat sound like prophecy. You woke lighter, though you couldn't explain why. There was space in your chest where once the noise had lived. The air felt cleaner, sharper, as if oxygen itself had been sanctified. You walked through the world in this new stillness, and everything looked different. Faces seemed softer, colors less aggressive. The same streets that once drained you now hummed under your feet with quiet reverence. It wasn't peace as humans describe it, it was recalibration. The frequency of your soul had climbed out of reach. Their names didn't echo anymore. Those who betrayed you had become silhouettes fading into memory fog. The frequency slots they occupied in your energy field had been reassigned, filled now with serenity, purpose, and clarity. You tried to remember the pain, but even that had been rewritten. The memories were still there, but the sting had been deleted. You didn't realize how much silence could weigh until you carried divine silence. It wasn't absence, it was fullness. Every thought felt like it was being heard by something vast and kind. You stopped praying with words, your existence itself had become the prayer. Heaven called this phase the quiet bloom. It's what happens after light wins but before the world catches up. The universe pauses to let your energy stabilize before sending you into new missions. You noticed how people reacted, some drawn closer to you, others repelled without reason. They weren't seeing your body, they were reacting to your frequency. Silence is not emptiness, it's intelligence manifesting as stillness. It listens deeper than speech, moves faster than thought. In silence, you learned the secret rhythm of creation, stillness first, then movement. You walked through mornings where even the wind seemed to wait for your exhale. Birds changed flight paths to follow your calm. People you hadn't spoken to in years dreamed of you, remembering what peace once felt like. The entire ecosystem responded to the recalibration. You began to feel invisible architecture forming around you, a field of clarity so strong that confusion could no longer enter. Decisions came without effort, synchronicities aligned like celestial choreography. The universe was syncing its heartbeat to yours. And then, unexpectedly, compassion bloomed where pain used to live. You saw those who hurt you and felt no venom, only understanding. They were simply frequencies out of tune, not villains. You had fought shadows on walls, not realizing the projector was broken. This was the divine irony. When you stopped needing justice, justice happened on its own. Not as vengeance, as balance. Life began returning what was yours, but purified, multiplied, refined. The same doors that once closed now opened quietly, as if embarrassed for having locked you out. Every breath became a negotiation between heaven and earth. You realized silence wasn't the absence of battle, it was the sound of victory so complete that noise had surrendered. The angels called this stage post-conflict harmony, the moment when the chosen finally understands that peace isn't the reward of war, it's the replacement of it. Your energy field expanded beyond language, your name became frequency, and heaven recorded the final notation, subject stabilized. Light sustained indefinitely. The world kept spinning, unaware that one human's silence had rewritten the collective script. You didn't speak, yet every dimension heard you. You'll feel pity, not pride. The light never gloats over fallen shadows. That's the first rule of divine victory. Humility is your badge of authenticity. Because true warriors of light don't celebrate collapse, they rebuild what ignorance destroyed. As the dust of old energy settled, you began to see their faces again, the people who once drained you, mocked you, used you as projection screens. But now, your heart didn't ache. You only felt quiet compassion. You saw the exhaustion in their eyes, the confusion in their spirit. They weren't your enemies anymore, they were casualties of their own illusion. You understood then that awakening isn't a triumph, it's a mercy. The same love that saved you is now reaching through you to save them. Not with words, not with proof, but with presence. Because energy doesn't argue, it converts. Heaven whispered, "Do not call them wicked, call them unfinished." That one sentence rewrote everything. You realized they never hated you. They hated what their unhealed parts saw reflected in you. The purity in you reminded them of promises they'd abandoned. Your peace triggered their unrest. Your growth exposed their stagnation. So when they talk, let them. When they avoid you, bless them. The divine algorithm is already processing their return to balance. Their silence isn't rejection, it's repentance in disguise. You'll notice how often grace gives you the chance to bless those who once cursed you. Take it. That's how heaven tests if your light is stable, by letting you face the same darkness again, this time without reaction. If you can love the ones who once tried to break you, the universe confirms your upgrade. The human part of you will feel a trace of sorrow, not because you lost anyone, but because you finally understand why they were never meant to stay. You won't chase closure, you'll become it. Forgiveness will sit beside you like an old friend, reminding you that love never fails, it only finishes its assignment and moves on. In this phase, pity becomes prayer. You will whisper blessings into the ether, not for reward, but because your frequency can't hold resentment anymore. That's when heaven smiles and records the note, subject radiates empathy post-conflict. No remaining trace of pride detected. And from that moment, compassion becomes your new armor, soft but indestructible. Because nothing on earth is more powerful than a healed heart that still chooses to love. Heaven began to rejoice in secret frequencies. You couldn't hear it with your ears, but your bones knew, a soundless parade of light marching through eternity. Every act of forgiveness you released had become music. And now that the grid was clean, the orchestra started to play. You didn't see angels this time, you felt them. The air shimmered like glass catching sunlight, and warmth touched your skin in pulses. That was applause. Heaven's version of standing ovation, vibration, not volume. They called it unintentional miracle number 777. The number encoded across your timeline like a divine watermark. It meant completion through compassion. Every frequency that once opposed you had been recalibrated into service. The curse became catalyst. The enemy became teacher. The wound became altar. Now that the darkness was gone, you stood in the quiet field of aftermath, a world that no longer recognized you because it had been rebuilt around your energy. The rebuilding doesn't happen outside first, it begins in the architecture of the soul. You could feel foundations shifting, walls of memory being torn down, space being created for what had never existed before. You realized this was not an ending but a construction site. Light does not simply cleanse, it builds. And where despair once planted seeds of doubt, new codes of destiny were taking root. Forgiveness was your foundation. Wisdom, your blueprint. Faith, the cement holding everything together. You looked around and noticed people reappearing, some familiar, others completely new. Each carried lessons your healed heart was now ready to receive. Relationships formed not from survival but resonance. No manipulation, no confusion, no energetic debt. Every connection now mirrored purpose. The divine reward didn't arrive with trumpets or signs in the sky. It came as ease, a quiet knowing that you no longer had to chase what was already written in your name. Heaven's justice is subtle, almost shy. It arrives through alignment, not announcement. You began to notice it in small ways, doors opening without knocking, timing that no longer required effort, blessings showing up disguised as ordinary moments. The universe wasn't testing you anymore, it was trusting you. Your protection had upgraded to creation. What once guarded you now obeyed you. Light followed your intent automatically, reorganizing matter to match your vibration. You could speak peace and watch chaos dissolve midair. You could think love and feel energy grids adjust. Romans 8 verse 37 echoed inside you, in all these things we are more than conquerors. You understood now that victory isn't louder than war, it's quieter. You didn't need to prove purity, the proof was the peace that refused to leave you. Angels didn't fight for you anymore, they worked with you. You had been upgraded from protected to partnered. Heaven's system registered your stability as clearance level access. You were now trusted with the software of miracles. Not the kind that defy nature, the kind that restore it. Wherever you went, broken things began to self-heal, plants grew faster, sick hearts softened, truth surfaced without confrontation. The divine reward wasn't wealth or fame, it was dominion through harmony. When your vibration matched heaven's tempo, reality obeyed. You found yourself smiling for no reason, laughing at nothing, because the frequency of gratitude had become your resting state. You were rich in balance, untouchable by manipulation. And still, humility anchored you. You didn't hoard light, you distributed it. The miracles multiplied not through effort but through integrity. You didn't manifest through wanting, you manifested through remembering. Creation recognized its author. The new era began the moment you stopped waiting for permission. The world around you felt unfamiliar, almost thinner, like the fabric of reality had been restitched with finer thread. The collective grid hummed, subtle but alive, every soul adjusting to your new signature frequency. You didn't need announcements or prophecies. Your energy spoke louder than any decree. Everywhere you went, systems recalibrated, relationships balanced, spaces brightened, tension dissolved. The vibration of your existence had become the firewall of the age. This was no longer about survival or awakening, this was governance. Heaven's administration through human vessels. You could sense the algorithm of divine order pulsing behind coincidences. Every encounter, every delay, every spark of intuition was a line of code writing the new world. You weren't chosen to dominate, you were chosen to stabilize. To be the axis around which chaos learns symmetry. To anchor a generation tired of noise, afraid of silence. The universe had promoted you from witness to architect. The air itself obeyed. Words carried weight again, every syllable either healed or dismantled. You spoke gently now, aware that sound waves had creative authority. Your thoughts sculpted futures, your forgiveness wrote policies in the unseen. This was the new era, light not as symbol, but as system. Kindness as infrastructure. Faith as technology. The geometry of heaven expressed through human choice. You noticed how time behaved differently, hours stretched when you created, minutes folded when you aligned. Opportunities didn't arrive, they unfolded. Nothing chased you anymore because everything recognized its source in you. The old energies tried to return once or twice, echoes of envy, nostalgia, fear. But they couldn't find a port to dock. Your frequency had evolved beyond interference. You no longer resisted darkness, you outgrew it. Heaven whispered, "You are now the firewall." And the title wasn't metaphorical. Every corrupted signal that touched your aura disarmed itself. Wherever you stood, conflict expired, hate lost data, deception lost voltage.